All right, Miles. So I just had you on. We talked about your top five Z-Man baits, and one of your baits was the Graph Shad, a new one that they just released at ICAST this year. Just released. A lot of people probably don't have their hands on it. So give us some more information about that. Talk about, why it's a good bait, when you fish it, the time of year, your rod and reel line. Give us the details about that particular bait.
All right, so we got the Graph Shadz here. So this bait, I was really excited about it because, I'm not a guru, like a lot of the younger anglers that are really dominating right now with live sonar, active target, and just forward facing in general. And we all know that a jig head and minnow bait presentation has really been making the most, getting the most traction with this technology nowadays. But one of the things that I was really frustrated with was the fact that I'm pretty particular when I'm putting, my baits together, and the minnow jig head profile just always bugged me because there was always that weird transition from the actual jig head to the bait. Very rarely did you have a jig head that was the right size and color and shape that just seamlessly would match with whatever presentation you were using. And so I always thought that was kind of clunky. And so when Z-Man showed me the drawings, the concept for this, I was really excited about it. So essentially, it is that jig head minnow presentation, but it's just kind of optimized. And I think that that's important nowadays because everybody's doing it. And if everybody is throwing similar presentations, having a bait that is more realistic than all the rest, I think is kind of at a premium right now. And so they do that really well. Obviously, you can see it's got that realistic head, realistic eye, and the paint schemes really match the color of the body very well. So you have that very seamless transition, realistic profile. Another thing that we mentioned before really is cool about this bait is that it's a line through, and the line tie is actually at the bottom of the chin there, which locks the knot in a very specific position where your knot is essentially always in the right spot to where it's going to swim right. It's going to hover just perfectly. So I would say that you're pretty much going to be using this in the same type of situations that the Demiki or Ned Miki or hover strolling, whatever you want to call it. Those techniques are going to be working in. This is just to me a better presentation, a better profile overall. So I think it's going to be more like deeper, more relatively clear water and suspended fish when they're focused on bait fish. That's when you're going to be wanting to throw this. Obviously, having a forward-facing sonar is a big deal. You could also fish vertically. So if you don't have forward-facing sonar, we've been fishing vertically for decades, with just 2D sonar. You don't need to have forward-facing sonar to be able to fish a bait like this. So anytime you can vertically fish, or you can sight cast to individual or small groups of fish forward of the boat or to the sides of the boat, wherever you're pointing the transducer, that's where this is going to excel. And I really think that spinning gear is kind of standard nowadays with this. You could use bait casting gear, but spinning gear, I use a 7.2 medium heavy Versus series rod from Fitzgerald. I'm kind of more on. I like a medium heavy spinning rod more than I think a lot of guys do. But you could use a medium action rod on this. I would say the line choice. I always have a baseline, a main line of Seagar Smackdown, that flash green in 15 to 20 pound sizes, and then I tie a gold label leader onto this. Usually 8 to 12 pound test. That's going to serve you well. I mean, if the fish are really line shy, and you start to notice a lot of them turning away, maybe downsize your leader size to a lighter line. But The gold label does a really good job because it's really a small diameter per pound test rating anyways. So you can kind of downsize your line while maintaining the strength. And so that would be my ultimate setup for this bait.
Good deal. So when it comes to a bait like that, like I say, there's a lot of different strolling or Demiki style techniques they could use. Do you have any kind of off the wall, techniques that you use with it? Is it versatile to where you could do it in different things, or would you stick to those particular techniques?
Yeah, I would stick. I'm still learning. I'll be honest. I am not an expert at these techniques that we're talking about. I'm still a student of these techniques, so I'm still learning. I think the most traditional way that, not traditional, but the most a common way you see people fishing nowadays is you find the individual fish, cast it out there, try to get it right on top of their head, and then you're essentially working it fast with your rod tip high, reeling real fast, and shaking the rod tip at the same time. And usually the fish, if they're going to commit, they're going to commit very early in that retrieve. But the key is just making it look like that bait is trying to get away from them. And it's amazing how quickly a bass will go from just, swimming around to chasing that thing like his life depends on it. And but that's generally during like the summertime. During the wintertime, you start to see a shift where, and this is just from my personal experience with vertical fishing, drop shotting, and also doing, kind of a Demiki or Ned Meeky style technique. But a lot of times when the water gets colder, it's all about just hovering it right above their heads. Like you'll drop it down or cast it to a fish, let it go right above their heads, and then you're just essentially just either, tight lining and just letting it sit still above their head, or you're doing the same but vertically. And a lot of times they'll hit it with it just sitting there, like they'll get interested. And if they get interested and then they kind of seem like they're not going to commit, I might just lift it up without any shakes, just kind of lift it up like it's trying to get away from them, but very subtle, and they'll come up and eat it that way. So there's a lot of things that you can do with it. I've even started fishing, baits like the Graph Shadz in a kind of more of a jerk bait retrieve. So I'd cast it out to individual fish, and if they really need a lot of action, a lot of motivation to commit to that bait, I'll fish it like a jerk bait and just pop the rod tip pretty aggressively, and a lot of times that'll cause them to come up too. So you can do a lot of different things, and that's kind of, I think, the key to this whole deal is kind of figuring out your style and figuring out your approach.
Good deal. Well, that's a Graph Shadz, so that's that particular bait for Z-Man. But I have a couple of other Z-Man questions for you. Now,
Yeah.
I don't know if you know the answer to these questions. I don't know if you know the answers. You can't tell me the answer to these
Yeah.
questions, but I'm gonna ask them anyway because I have you on the show. So,
Yeah.
Z-Man has Last Tech, a wide array of soft plastics, and I don't know if they're getting into the hard bait game or not with the Hellraiser, but most brands, lure brands out there, they have a line of hard baits and a line of soft baits. But
Right.
Z-Man, they have some spinner baits, of course, which are great. And then they have the Hellraiser. But do you think they're going to be getting more into the hard bait game at all?
I do think that they're going to, continue to get into the hard bait game. But the thing about Z-Man is they've really got to sink their teeth into, the right product. If it's something that is new or unique enough to put that Z-Man brand on, that's what they're looking for. They're not just going to, take a square bill 1.5, design and redo that, pretty much without changing anything dramatic. Like they've really got to, they're so good at doing things that are outside of the box, even if it's a play on something that's already, popular. They still have to like find something very unique to offer before they do that. So that I can tell you, there's been a lot of discussions, a lot of things. I've thrown a few hard baits at them, and so there's definitely some interest in doing that. It just has to be the right products that catch fish and that are unique enough to be a go-to bait for somebody in, a marketplace that's just full of kind of copycat type designs.
Right. All right. That's a great answer. I think you answered my question without fully answering my question, but I won't dig too deep.
Well, but that is the best I can do, because I don't know of any hard baits that they're actually going to pull the trigger on. Like I said, I had one design I thought was really cool, and I think that we're pumping the brakes on that one. But I think that the sky's the limit. But right now, I don't know of anything that's actually going to be introduced.
All right. So along the same lines of that question, I have another question, because the classic is coming up it's fast approaching. It's a good ways away, but it's coming up close. We got ICAST 2025, of course, less than a year away. So being with Z-Man, and I know you know all the knowledge of Z-Man, what's the inner workings of it, what can we expect from them in February or in July of next year? I mean, I want details. I mean, what exact lures are coming out that you could maybe lose your job over by telling me?
Yeah. Usually I find out about classic things that are going to be introduced at the classic probably in the next couple months is when I start hearing about them. I really don't know what they're planning on coming out with next at the classic. I really hate to not be able to answer that question very well, but I really don't know. I do know that whatever they do, one of the things that Z-Man likes to do is they like to really focus in on systems. And by systems, I mean, like, the chatterbait is not just a line of by itself. It's not just out there on an island. It's got a whole community of different products around it. You've got various different chatterbaits. And then you also have various different trailers and things like that you can choose from. So it's more of a system than it is just a specific product. And so I can tell you with certainty, very much confidence that you can expect to see a lot of new additions to already existing systems, like the Ned Rig system, like chatterbait system, and things like that. So, you're probably going to see some more Elastec baits, just like they introduced the new, TRD fatties into the Ned Rig system. You'll probably see, something like that. But also, you're starting to see once they hired, Jose onto the team. Once they hired Jose onto the team, he really started doing some really cool stuff, like the Mulletron LT, the Shadtron LT, the Graph Shadz. A lot of the stuff that he's coming out with are really, really unique. So I think that you can expect to see more of that going into the classic.
Good deal. Well, again, you answered my question without fully answering my question, but I guess I'll take your word for it this time. I think you're withholding some stuff, but fair is fair. That's cool.
I think you're giving me too much credit, especially this year. This year I have not been as in tune with everything as I usually am. So that's the best I can give you, because that's all I got. And if I do know something, I'm forgetting it, which is very, very possible.
Good deal. Well, I appreciate you taking your time out. Of course, I want to have you back on. There's a wealth of knowledge that you have about Z-Man baits. So we're going to have you back on. I have some other questions about some other baits and techniques that I want to pick your brain about.
Excellent. I'd love to be back for sure.
Good deal. Well, I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you so much, Daryl.
No problem.
Hey, everybody. I'm Miles Burghoff, Bassmaster EQ's angler, and also nowadays YouTuber. I can't believe I'm saying that, but you can find me. The best places to find me, of course, are on YouTube. Sonar Fishing is my channel there. And then, of course, following me throughout Bassmaster.com as I fish Bassmaster EQ tournaments. And I'd love to see you also on Instagram and Facebook, too.